Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander. I am a product manager by trade, but I'm also a bit of a dabbler in the entrepreneurial sport. I have kind of been operating in various parts of the kind of product world, all the way from hard engineering product management, all the way through to consumer-facing products. I actually met Justin when we were at a design agency together in London, and that's how I've kind of found myself here today as your AI expert. But I do work on a day-to-day basis with this technology, and there's some things that we're going to kind of discuss today that will hopefully help you set up yourself well for the next few years. So my early career has been very much in the emerging technology space in Australia and in the UK. I started my life in augmented reality, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and have kind of worked through. In case anyone is wondering, yes, that last picture there is a flex, 100%. But I'm going to throw that up anyway. I am reading the chat, folks, so if you do have any comments, please feel free to throw them in there. But let's get started by kind of talking about the fundamental disruption that is coming. And it's not just AI that is going to be delivering this fundamental disruption. It's also augmented and extended realities and spatial computing. So we're not going to cover that off too much today because our focus is on AI, but it is something I want to plant in your brains as things that product managers need to be kind of aware of, that over the next 5 years, the way that we interface with products is going to fundamentally change. We're no longer going to be reliant on apps or keyboards or mice or screens. Instead, we're going to start to see our digital world fuse with our physical world. It might not take 5 years, might take longer, might take less time. We never know. But I guarantee you this is absolutely going to happen. So spatial computing is definitely in its infancy in terms of real world use case, but this is a great example of a hybrid laptop that doesn't have a screen. It's got a keyboard and it's got a pair of glasses. Now, as product managers, you're going to have to think about what does the interface look like and how do you actually change your design, your product offering, and to make sure that you're delivering value when people are using your product in what is a non-traditional way. So let's talk just for a moment on something a little different, which is a bit of a notion that product management is in decline. And I'm going to push back on this pretty aggressively today. And the reason for that is you'll see that the product management role is just changing. It's not going anywhere. There's still going to be a huge number of product managers over the next foreseeable future. In fact, my bet is that product management will become a core part of the entire technology stack, especially enabled by AI, because once you get to a place where you have AI executing and building, you're going to need a product manager that's there orchestrating and bringing things together to make sure that you're bringing that value to the customer. But let's get into a little bit of a story now. I want to talk to you about momentum. And when I was 8 years old, I went on a road trip for the first time in my life with a friend. Left home without the parents. It was just me, my friend, and their family. We went to a farm in Armidale, which is in rural New South Wales, Australia. And we were driving for 8 hours. And as you can imagine, 8-year-olds in a car for 8 hours, not a very pleasant experience. So when we got to the farm, the first thing we did, opened the doors and bolted. And we ran to the top of a hill. And on this property, there was big boulders everywhere. And we found a boulder on the top of a hill. And what do 8-year-olds do when you see a boulder on the top of a hill? You push it. And so my friend and I, we gave it a good, gentle push. And it wasn't that gentle. It was pretty forceful. And the boulder started rolling and rolling and rolling, slowly gathering speed and rolling until it was moving quite at a pace when it popped up as though by magic and slammed straight into a tree, knocking it clean over. And I tell you this story because we're going to be looking at AI and the momentum of AI, because this is a really important concept to grasp. And not many people have really wrapped their head around how fast things are changing. But before we get into what's changing, let's have a look in the past. So in the chat, does anyone want to take a guess of when AI was first invented? I'll give you a couple of seconds to throw your answers in there. We've got 1960, 1955. These are good answers. 1950s, yeah, 1970, 1955. All right, you're all in the right ballpark there. AI was first invented in a paper by Alan Turing, where he theorized what if machines could think, and that was in 1950. That was just after he came out of Bletchley Park, doing all of his clandestine secret work for the MI6 during the Second World War, and he essentially gave birth to computer science. But since that point, in 1950, it took 47 years for artificial intelligence to be leveraged successfully in a commercial product. And I am defining that in a very specific way, and that is if you take AI out of the product, which was drag and dictate, the product was completely functionally useless. It did nothing. And as such, the first proper commercial successful product was drag and dictate. I used it as a kid, someone with dyslexia. The ability to just talk and have it transcribe onto the screen was revolutionary at the time. But it took 20 years from that point to get to a place where Google and the DeepMind team published a paper called Attention is All You Need. And this was really the inflection point for AI. And then from that point, it only took 5 years to get to another successful AI product, which was ChatGPT, which was the fastest growing product in the history of product development. And then 3 years to go from the initial launch of that product to where AI has super genius technology. So as you can see, this timeline is looking pretty crazy. You've got this paper being released, and then you've got this rapid pace of change. And I want to show you this graph. This graph is really interesting, and it's not entirely accurate in a couple of ways. What we're looking at here is the intelligence of AI, and I'm only looking at OpenAI. We're looking at the intelligence of OpenAI's models when they were released. And that's the blue line there. Now, the reason this isn't entirely accurate is human intelligence is measured in IQ points, which is essentially a standard deviation away from the mean. And how far away from the average are you? Whereas AI intelligence is measured using benchmarks. And that's why these scores are a little misleading. But they're roughly accurate. And that blue line, as you can see, in the space of 2018, you can't really see it too well down here. 2018 to 2025, 7 years, we've gone from 60 IQ point intelligence to genius level IQ, which is 140. And you'll notice that a big jump happened in less than a year between May 2024 and June 2025. But the pink line is the one that we should all be paying attention to. And the pink line is the theoretical amount of economically valuable labor that AI can perform with that level of intelligence. Now, that means how much of the work that we do that's valuable could theoretically AI complete. And I think you'll notice that these AI, that pink line is getting quite close to 100%. And this is the kind of fundamental world that we're going into. Now, I show you this slide because it's really interesting when you start unpacking the rate of change here and the momentum that AI. So from Alan Turing in 1950, slowly giving the metaphorical rock a push off the hill, all the way 47 years, it's gathering speed. And then 2017, it really picks up the pace. And since that point, the AI rock, to continue the analogy or the metaphor, has really increased in speed. And it's about to hit our entire society and everything we know about product and everything we know about solutions square in the middle of that tree, that just like I saw when I was young. Now, this chart is, again, looking at the IQ, which is in the pink line now. But there's an interesting thing that's happening, which is the time since release. And if you notice that between GPT 3.5 and GPT 3.0, 03, you'll notice that the cadence between each of these is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And this is not entirely accurate. There are a lot of other models that were released in this period, and as such, you'll actually see the total model capability increasing at a far greater rate. But for one company, OpenAI, operating a foundational model, you can see the rate of change is increasing pretty aggressively. That orange line is a pure estimate because no one really knows genuinely how much compute time is going into training these models. They never tell us. But one thing is for sure, is that AI is being used to improve the models. And AI is very good at mathematics. And at the end of the day, the AI is helping that AI train the next generation of that model. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The smarter the AI gets, the faster it can train, the faster it can create what's known as compute multipliers, which enables the training process to happen far more efficiently. And this is all to say that we're going to reach a level of AI sophistication that is far greater than what we have today in less than a couple of months. And then again and again and again. As human beings, we're all very bad collectively at understanding what an exponential curve looks like. And when we're talking about AI intelligence, what are we actually talking about? And this is it. It's reasoning, and it's the ability for AI to think about something and really iterate through that process. And this is a snapshot from O1, the premier thinking model, which just got eclipsed by 4.5. But this is essentially the time it takes for an AI to think about an answer is directly correlated to the accuracy and the improvement in the intelligence of that answer, which essentially means the longer an AI thinks about it, the smarter its answer is. And we can see that in practice. We can actually go and tangibly see this. So this is a great example. There's the 4.0 model from OpenAI. And today I'm only using OpenAI. There are plenty of other models we can talk about. But for now, 4.0 model in OpenAI, it's not a high reasoning model, at least not when this exercise was conducted. And this exercise has 16 different words. And the AI is tasked with coming up with the categories. So those big long bars, which is bread, approval, movement, action, object, and item, those are the categories under which all of these keywords need to fall. So the AI was given a task. Can it reason based on the correlation between all those keywords, what the category is? And as you can see, you've got some weird answers here. So I'm not sure what a bread shank is. Does anyone know? If anyone does, throw it in the chat because I'm a little bit curious about that. I'm not entirely sure what the motion or action is of a whiff. I'm not sure how you do that, but that seems like a bit of a strange thing. And in fact, it is. And this is where the reasoning capability of AI seems subtle, but has material changes or material differences in how these AI models can be leveraged. And as you can see, we've got the O1 model now on the right, the exact same task, but now you can see that it has not only A, correctly grouped all of those items together, but B, it's actually come up with much better categories. All of the green ones are circles. Everything in yellow is definitely a part of an approval process or approval. Blue is definitely motion or action. And then pink, that's where that shank is going. It's a golf term. And as such, as you can see, when you have an AI that can perform complex reasoning, you can apply it to a lot of different parts of the value chain, especially the knowledge work value chain. So here are a couple of examples of just a few areas where folks are able to, where AI can apply its reasoning. So if you go and have a look at any really well-paid job right now in the knowledge space, I'm almost certain that one of these kind of things or these kind of activities will be a part of that job in some way, shape, or form. Now, this is not an extensive list. This is just an example, but it should go to demonstrate that as AI gets smarter, it's going to be able to perform a lot of the tasks that we do today. So as product managers, how does that change our thinking, and how does that change our frame of reference and the way that we should be looking at the product management process and the way that we bring products to market? Now, to make this really tangible, I'm going to show you some pictures of my kids. So this is my son Henry when he was 7 days old, and ironically, I took a photo exactly 4 years after that day when he was 4 years old. And he was a GPT-3 baby. So he was born not before ChatGPT was a thing, but the model before ChatGPT was released. This was in 2022. Or 2021, sorry. And in essence, if he was an AI, he would already have his PhD. As a father, I'm very disappointed in my son because he doesn't, in fact, have a PhD, still struggling with diapers. But this should give you a context to the fact that as human beings, we are completely outgunned. There's no point trying to fight it. We are just going to be outgunned in terms of our ability and our intelligence. So I'm going to tell you another story very quickly about when I was now 10 years old. I flew down to Adelaide from Brisbane, where I lived at the time. And my mother told me I should go and ask to go and sit in the cockpit for landing. And me being me, I did. So 10 minutes before we land, the flight attendant comes and grabs me, and I go and get strapped into the jump seat. To this day, still one of the coolest things I've ever done. And it was awesome to sit there and watch it. Now, everyone in the chat, type in a message and tell me, has anyone else sat in the cockpit for landing when they were flying somewhere? If you're off to Ibiza or heading over to Rome, have you ever had the opportunity to kind of sit in the cockpit for takeoff or landing? I can already guess the answer, and I can already tell there's some folks that might be a little older. Last time I asked this question, no one was older than 21, which made me a bit sad. But the reason I say this is, where was everyone the day the world changed on September 1st, 2001? And that was the day that sitting in the cockpit of a commercial airliner was no longer possible. And this is to illustrate that change is almost always unavoidable. Sometimes it happens slowly, and sometimes it happens all at once. Ultimately, the big change that's happening here is a fundamental change that we're seeing. And it really goes to speak to this, that our society is predicated on this fundamental assumption that humans are the most intelligent species on the planet. And as intelligent species, we all contribute our kind of economically valuable labor towards acquiring the wealth or the abundance of wealth that is in the world. And in a simple terms, we essentially trade our time for money. And if you're an employer, you're trading other people's time and you're arbitraging the difference. But in essence, the fundamental assumption is that if you want things, you trade your time for money. Our society is built on this assumption. So we are all going to have to start a conversation and start framing in our minds, what happens when this assumption is invalidated? What happens when we are no longer the smartest, when we can't do things the best, when a subject matter expert is no longer smarter than an AI? And this is something that is uniform. There is no one person on the planet that is smarter than an AI. We're all in the same boat here, which is great, but it also means that we now need to kind of reframe and change our frame of reference around how the world will work, and decide when we're creating products, we need to be building for this future state. So I asked this question. Does anyone know what 525,600 means? Does anyone want to take a hazard a guess what this represents, what this number represents? No one? Well, I'll put you out of misery. Joe, Alonso, you've got it. Amy, Beacom, you've got it. You've all seen the musical Rent, I hope. It is, in fact, 525,600 minutes. Sorry for anyone that's got the song in their head. But if you break that number down into 3 categories, which is working, sleeping, and doom scrolling on Instagram, it kind of looks like this in terms of the number of hours in the year. And I say this because as the world changes and as we start adopting our processes, systems, and products to leverage AI, we're going to need to figure out how we want to spend those minutes, and where is the best use of those minutes. And I like to take this time to kind of talk about the AI for good and power of AI for good. Because something that's very dear to me personally, and I'll take you on a quick tangent, is a story about my dad. My dad was diagnosed with motor neuron disease in 2023 in November. And in the lead up to my wedding in September last year, he lost his voice. So I cloned his voice using AI. That was historically not possible. And so he delivered his wedding speech at my wedding using an AI cloned voice. And as such, we then adapted that into a product. Almost all of it was built using AI. And as such, there are 140,000 people around the world that are diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and just under 4 million that have neurodegenerative diseases that affect your physical ability to speak. But AI can now provide a material solution. So what does this mean? And where will we be 5 years from now? The honest answer is no one really knows. If you asked this question last year or 2 years ago, I guarantee you the answers were different. I'm with Arthur. I want to be on a beach 5 years from now. But if we're looking at the world 5 years from now in a product management context, there's a couple of things that we're pretty sure are going to happen. And the first is that software will be commoditized, which means AI will replace human engineers. It's almost certainly going to happen. And I'll give you a demo of that in a couple of minutes. We're also going to see the fundamentals of business models around technology fundamentally changing. This notion of like point SaaS solutions is going to die. If you don't need to have a distributed dev team working on a single product, well, then why would someone pay for your subscription? Why wouldn't they just use AI to build a custom solution? Which means as product managers, we need to now kind of think about what are the network effects that need to go into products to keep that stickiness, or what is the kind of value proposition, and how is that differentiated from just the ability to produce some kind of software solution? So there's going to be a lot of intangibles that we're going to need to figure out. But the truth there is that custom software will reign supreme within 5 years. And the last is really great news for us as product managers. And that is that as the world consumes more and produces more software, we're going to need people to be holding those, to be orchestrating all of the AI agents across potentially multiple products. I've just got a question, which is point SaaS solutions. So think a CRM is a point SaaS solution, or Salesforce, for example, or a simple app to kind of upload your receipts to an accounting software. So these are small, discrete, single points. Dropbox is a great example of a point SaaS solution. These are all kind of discrete apps that kind of abstracted away some kind of technical challenge and have presented a really clean user interface, but it's predicated on this notion that they can maintain an innovation advantage by distributing their cost of development across a wide number of users. The problem with point SaaS solutions is that you're going to get to a place where someone might not necessarily want to have a product that is exactly what you want it to be. So we might see SaaS solutions changing to highly bespoke custom built, where every customer has a unique instance with a core set of functionality. And ultimately, in a world where that happens, we're going to have these orchestration platforms. And this is where product managers are really going to play. They're going to take their time to kind of understand exactly how all these products fit together and make sure at the end of the day, that value is being generated for those customers, and ensuring that we can measure that value and enhance that value in some way, shape, or form. So hopefully this has got you thinking. But ultimately, the thing that you really need to understand around AI is it's not just large language models. So large language models are the ChatGPTs or the Claudes or the DeepSeeks of the world. These are large language models, and they process a bunch of text or image, but they are one subset of the entire artificial intelligence landscape. There is a lot of different artificial intelligence that is out there, and it's just becoming more and more accessible and faster and faster and faster to leverage. And this is a screenshot from Hugging Face. And if you're unaware of Hugging Face, it's definitely one of those websites you should go and have a play with. It's definitely more on the technical side of things. So if you're struggling, but it should open your eyes to some of the incredible innovations that are happening in the AI space in general. So let's get down to some brass tacks. Let's actually talk some fundamental kind of key terms and key information that should help you understand a little bit more about how the world of AI is working. Now, for the next little section, we're going to talk about large language models because 99% of use cases are most likely going to fall within a large language model AI context right now. And that number might decrease over time, but right now, almost everything is going to be large language models. So what is a token? Does anyone want to hazard a guess what a token is? It's a subset of a word. Luke, that's very good. A word in the prompt. Yes, that's also a great answer. String of text. All of these are technically correct, but the answer that I'm looking for is a token is the smallest unit of a word that an AI can process, which essentially means if you have a large language model, what is the smallest chunk of words that you can break it down to? And in essence, this is how our large language models work. They, in essence, break down what you say or what you type in, and they convert it down into these tokens. And each token has a number. Essentially, it's a reference or an ID. So I'm going to just change my screen here for a moment, and I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. This is the OpenAI platform. I decided to just keep everything in-house. OpenAI, by no means am I saying OpenAI is the best, but this is definitely going to be a great example of what I'm talking about. So this is a tokenizer. You can go have a look at it yourself. But in essence, as you can see here, this is what I've entered in. So these are tokens. These are all the words that are divisible. So as you can see, many of the words are not divided at all. But indivisible is broken up into two different tokens. And as you can see, when you have things like emojis, you can have a whole bunch of different tokens. And then you also, with numbers and different sequences of characters that are commonly found together, these can be broken up. So in essence, these all relate to a number. So when large language models are processing your prompt, they're actually converting all of those words into numbers, and then they're calculating where and how those numbers fit together in a big mathematical equation. And that is essentially what that large language model is processing. It's massive matrix multiplication. I mentioned a little earlier that this is all math, and it's very much math. So hopefully this is one of those things that kind of starts you to think a little bit differently about how large language models are actually working under the hood. And if you understand how tokens work, embedding, which is the process of taking large text documents and converting them into their numbers, is actually really a simple concept to understand. So let's go back to the slides for a moment, because I next want to talk about what do convolutional neural networks look like. So has anyone actually seen a convolutional neural network, which is essentially a large language model in action being trained? Well, if you haven't, let's have a look right now. So this is a really cool little website. This is called TensorFlow. And essentially TensorFlow was developed by the same people that invented the GPT, the generative pre-trained transformer. And this is a little playground where you can actually have a bit of fun. So what we are going to do is we are going to try and get all of these blue dots to sit in the blue and all of these orange dots to sit in the orange. So when training is happening, in essence, what's happening is you've got a bunch of different cycles. So this is how many different times the AI is being trained or given different inputs. And in essence, what's changing is these weights. So these are all what is known as neurons, and they all have a distinct shape. And then you get this thing called training loss. So when you see these benchmarks around and these really cool charts of these lines that are going down, they're talking about training loss, which is essentially how models are trained. But that's pretty simple, right? It's circle and a big circle. But let's make it a little more complex. Let's make it this big old swirl. And as you can see, the last one took 200 epochs, which is essentially iterations to train. And this one, oof, it's just not getting there. And this is why a lot of conversations are being had around data. And as you can kind of see, this number is really not getting down very well. Why is that? Well, the model isn't that smart. There's only 4 neurons, which means there's 4 parameters. So when we hear about models being 300 or 3 billion or 360 billion or 3 trillion parameters, they're talking about this. They're talking about how many different little bits of data can the model store. So if we create a bunch of different layers within a model and train it with the exact same information, let's see if it changes it, if it somehow makes it different. But if you pay attention to what each of these is doing, they're all got their own little pattern that they're trying to kind of create. And they're specializing. They're becoming really smart in understanding exactly what that looks like. And as you can see, it's kind of getting there, kind of getting there, kind of getting there, but it's not going to get there. It's kind of stopped. That's it. It's flatlined. Let's add in some more data. So now these are the different bits of kind of data that we're feeding in. And as we train it, you'll notice that now it can really start to have these neurons specialize, and these weights and these biases are going to start to create these really, really clean connections. So we'll add in a couple little bit more data, throw that one in there as well, and that should really get there pretty quick. So as you can see, it's now achieved its goal, and there it is. So all of the blue dots are on the blue and all the orange dots are on the orange. So that's in essence how large language models are being trained. So I encourage you to go and have a play with this. It's really fun to kind of wrap your head conceptually around how these large language models are working. But in essence, this is what is the underpinning of why these models are getting much smarter and why they're getting much better, is because the model parameters are getting much larger and they're becoming specialized. There's a bit of a misconception out in the market right now where people say, oh, they're just prediction engines. They just predict the next word. And that's not true. They actually have these neurons. Each one of those little neurons in there becomes specialized in a specific bit of knowledge. And when it's combined with a bunch of other neurons, it becomes really, really smarter. So the smarter models typically either have really specialized neurons or they have a lot of different neurons or nodes in their models, which is why the very large models are billions of parameters and hundreds of billions of parameters or trillions of parameters large. And the data that's being produced, well, it used to just be all the internet, and now it's your chats that you're kind of throwing into it, as well as the AI making up data and kind of going and creating what is known as synthetic data. And that synthetic data it's not human generated, it's AI generated, but it still has a great outcome. And we're not going to go too much further on training, but I can kind of unpack that in the question section if you do have questions. But what we will talk about is context. So context is essentially how many of those tokens can the model process in one time? How much information, how much math can that model do in one hit? And essentially, this is what the token limit is. So right now, the largest model is a Gemini model, and it's 2 million tokens. To put that in context, that's about 5 full feature-length films, or I think something like 50,000 PDFs, or just like an astronomical amount of audio. So these context models are getting very, very large, and they're only going to get bigger. And then you also have the ability for AI to start creating tooling that allows it to access it. Now, if we look at where AI has been really successfully adopted, we can see that engineering and software development has really benefited from AI because AI is naturally really great. At the end of the day, computer science and software engineering, fundamentally comes back to a math equation. You're essentially telling a processor what to do and what calculations to do. We abstract away from that detail, but at the end of the day, that's essentially what coding is. And we can see there's vibe coding, there's a bunch of really cool things that are happening. But as product managers, that introduces a really interesting notion for us, which is, where do we sit in a world where AI can do the coding for us? And if you look at the core process of software development in the broadest state kind of sense, for a product manager, you can kind of see we've got this discovery process and design and iteration ideation process, which is this kind of customer research, kind of tying that customer research to the strategy, creating that core roadmap, gathering requirements, writing tickets, prioritizing a backlog, and then doing a design review. How much of that process goes away when you can go from customer research to feature or functionality in near real time? And how does the product management mindset need to shift away from these tactical tasks of like, why would I write a Jira ticket if an AI can just execute in real time? Are sprints still a thing? Do we need to do a sprint kickoff meeting? Do we need to have a bunch of daily stand-ups with developers? How is our jobs as product managers going to fundamentally change? And I really think that genuinely we're going to spend most of our time on items 1, 2, 3, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So really, we're going to kind of take the top and the tail of the product management process. And this is where AI is going to enable us to be superhuman in the sense that we'll be able to gather huge amounts of insight from the customer, make a determination, be accountable for the decision we make. And then an AI will execute on it. And then we just have to make sure that we communicate that to customers and kind of go back and iterate on additional feedback. And this is really where AI is going to be applied to that product management space. So if you kind of look at that strategic level, stakeholder engagement, organizational alignment, kind of vision, and the kind of core value proposition, I think that a big chunk of where we will play as product managers holistically will be in the strategic space. Whereas a lot of the tactical tasks, such as scoping and prioritizing and backlog management and dealing with developers and kind of key stakeholder engagement to kind of make sure everything's moving along, is going to be something that is fundamentally changed. And as such, the ultimate goal for us as product managers is to start thinking and holistically looking at the world a little bit differently. What happens when people use AI to give an instruction of what they want to achieve, but they don't actually want to do it themselves? An AI agent will go and do it for them. What happens when AI is the tool that we can use in order to synthesize huge amounts of information? How does that change the interfaces? Do we need to build our products for AI agents as well as humans? Do we need to ensure that we are delivering to AI agents really sophisticated and intelligent kind of outcomes? And how do we then protect our products from AI? And this was a bit of a fun thing I found the other day. There are some websites that are producing huge amounts of redundant, silly JavaScript and CSS classes. So that when an AI agent comes to the website to try and understand what's going on the web page, the context window gets overloaded. So they're putting millions and millions of tokens worth of useless CSS that takes nothing to load, just so that when an AI comes to the site, it's functionally useless. It can't actually understand what's going on the site. So there are a bunch of these things that as product managers, we're going to have to reframe our thinking around it. Now, for those who are interested, there are a couple of different things you can do to kind of get started. I'm assuming everyone in this room has already started playing with AI. But I do encourage you, go and grab a large language model with Ollama, host it on your own laptop and have a play. You'll start to kind of realize the limitations of how products need to be delivered and need to be reframed when you have these kind of AI on device capabilities. But I'm going to take 5 minutes right now and just demonstrate to you the point that I made a little earlier, where AI is going to fundamentally commoditize software. And the engineers of the world are not as important as they once were. And this is a tool called V0. And if you've already seen this, I apologize. this is a pretty cool little tool. This, in essence, is an AI coding agent. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to ask it, can you, oops, sorry, let me just move my keyboard here. Can you create a product management tool to help me create ideas and value props for my dev team? I'm making this up on the spot as I go. But in essence, what this is doing is I'm talking to it in natural language. I'm telling it what I want, and the AI is now going off and generating it. And as you can see, we can actually look at the thought. So it's like we're creating a management to help with ideation and product valuation. So it's a web application for brainstorming, organizing ideas, and defining value props. So it's going to create these core areas. I didn't tell it to do that. It just knew to do that. And this is a great example of when we are, as product managers, looking at how do we create products and how do we make sure that we're delivering value to the end user. We're going to have to really start understanding how the end users of our products are interacting with AI. And why would they come to our product if it's a software product, or our solution if they can do this? What is the key differentiator? And how does our solution, is it better, and what makes it different? And as you can see, what was this? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 16 words worth of text. And now this is written hundreds of lines of code already. In a moment, you're going to be able to click and play with it. So I encourage you to have a look at these tools. These are the vibe coding tools of the world, the v0.devs, the Vercels, the Windsurfer, the Cursors, Claude Coder, you name it. These are the kind of tools. But we are in the infancy of these tools. You really need to fundamentally understand that as product managers. And when you're dealing with engineers and developers, the expectation is now a lot higher. The AI should be turning even the most basic coder into a bit of a super weapon if you looked at them from a couple of years back. So we'll let this run for a moment, but I encourage you to start putting any questions you have in the Q&A. Let me see if I can open it up over here and make sure I can actually see some of those Q&A questions coming through. And then I'll start kind of going back and forth. But before I do, here is exactly what it looks like. Let's have a look. So it is now loading up a display. And as soon as it finishes, let's have a look. Oh, cool. That's pretty cool. Let's add an idea. So idea is to create a new product with AI. I want to make sure that we can create new products rapidly. And I think I'm just going to go add an AI tag. So there we go. That took all of a minute and a half to produce. And as you can see, we can now select this for a value prop. And now this is the thing that we're working on. So let's go and talk about our value prop. I didn't give it any of this information. It's gone off. The AI has gone off and done this by itself. So as product managers, the world is a really great place for us to play with. And ultimately, these are the kind of tools that you need to be across in addition to gaining that fundamental understanding. And I think that the kind of career accelerator that the team at Fourth Rev are producing gives you that fundamental understanding of how AI is working. But you need to look at it through the context of AI. So I've just realized that this white screen is making me look like I've got some kind of aura. I might turn this screen off in a minute. But I'm going to start answering some of your questions. So the first question is from Luke. Would you recommend using a token counter for longer contexts with an LLM, or are LLM context windows getting large enough and now that's not necessary? Look, I think that as a user of large language models, you really don't need to worry too much about those. So if I just zoom back to a different slide for a second, I'll just come to this one. In essence, there's a lot of different core tech that's going into large language models that makes a lot of these token countings completely unnecessary in a chat context. So a lot of chats are automatically truncated, or an AI sub-agent will go and summarize the conversation to that point. And essentially, when you start reaching the context window of how large the large language model can process, it essentially just grabs all of the relevant information and removes all the fluff, and then keeps that conversation going. There is a point called recall, which is essentially when you have very large conversations, the AIs, the best one is Gemini right now, and it's got about 90% recall, which means that once it gets to a certain level of usage in its token context window, it starts to forget things. It starts to be overloaded in terms of the information. So I think that ultimately, I wouldn't worry about those things. I would be focusing on just fundamentally understanding how AI is working, and then start experimenting, playing around. Don't worry about the optimization stuff. Like, just get something out, have a play with it, see what you can produce, and start building up that muscle memory of how AI works, so that when you are presented with the opportunity to go and help a business take their product from where it is to the AI first world, you are well placed to do so. So another one from Luke, which is, in your opinion, which of the companies with frontier models will likely achieve AGI first? Google. Google's my bet. Google is very much, I think, the silent horse in this race. They already have huge data centers. They produce their own chips. They have massive amounts of data. They have spent the last 30 years scraping the world and organizing the world's information. Their data set is going to be so much better than anyone else. And ultimately, you're going to get to a place where the engineering problems around artificial general intelligence have been solved. It's no longer a theoretical. There's no research left to do in order to achieve AGI. It's merely a data processing problem. The last time I checked in with some of the folks at some of these foundational models, they were talking about 15.5 trillion teraflop hours worth of processing necessary to get to AGI. And that number is going to come down very quickly with compute multipliers and a bunch of different kind of innovations that are happening in the space. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a data problem. It is, how do you source the right amount of data? You can see in the news right now, OpenAI and Sam Altman is talking about copyright and the ability to access copyright. Not sure I technically buy into that entire notion, but it is very much a core issue around the advancement of the next generation of AI models. And just kind of follow on that, do you think we're progressing too quickly, or not fast enough? I genuinely think that the AI is moving at such a rapid pace that it's a little bit too fast, way too fast. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the rate of change in the technology is far outpacing anything that society can handle. Governments, legal systems, they are not equipped to handle an AI world. A lot of products and businesses are not equipped to handle an AI world. There are so many different things that are coming down the pipeline in terms of AI capability that we are just generally not ready for. My prediction, as a demonstration of the fact that we aren't really ready for this, is that within the next year, we will see a very large scale cyber attack that is caused by AI, either a malicious actor or an accidental instance. And that will happen. I'm almost certain of it, because the cybersecurity space is not ready for AI. And as such, I think we're going to start. Things are probably going to get a little bit bad before they get better. So moving on to the next one, which is, in your opinion, what is the most promising real-world use case for autonomous agents right now? That's a great question. And I think that really comes down to, what are the core problems that AI agents are really well adapted for? And personal assistance and personal kind of communication management, I think, is a really strong one, in the sense that I genuinely think one of the best use cases for AI is to create this executive assistant, or this core intelligence capability that has insight into all of your context, so that you don't have to focus on all of these minor details. It's just kind of someone watching over your shoulder to help you kind of keep track of things. As someone who owns and runs a business, I am really waiting for that, because there are so many emails I just don't get to. There's so many text messages I forget to respond to. I always have scheduling clashes with picking up kids from swimming and that kind of thing. And kids come first, but I'm going to now apologize to someone that I've canceled a meeting to. And ultimately, where these use cases are going to be most prevalent is where humans are functionally and fundamentally flawed. Our ability to retain huge amounts of information is quite limited. Our ability to manage large amounts of complexity is quite limited. So if you take those kind of fundamental ideas around where are humans not great and where are AI exceptionally good, and look at the kind of crossover of where those two things meet, that's, I think, where there's going to be excellent use cases. So the next one is, in your opinion, what specific knowledge is required by a PM to manage native AI products? This is a great question. And ultimately, I think that it's about a mindset. How well can you look at the world and kind of just understand the fundamental changes that are happening? And how well, as a product manager, can you kind of predict where people are going to want to see value and what is the best way in which to deliver that value? So as product managers, you have to kind of put on that critical thinking hat and really just analyze the world at a macro level, at a strategic level, and then drill down into the individual user problem. A lot of people run off and build use cases and build out AI kind of tooling to do a specific task, and they miss the fact that they should be focused instead on AI capability. And the difference here is that if you focus on having an AI be able to achieve something, such as read and scan through all of my email, that's the capability. And now the use case is respond to my spam or unsubscribe me from spam messages and create a email digest of all the personal correspondence and filter and pull out all the receipts. Those are all use cases that come from the AI capability. But a lot of people are focused on, oh, let's just go and get into an AI and extract all the invoices. And the problem with that approach is that you kind of lock yourself into a specific way of doing things instead of enabling you to look at the broad scope of where is AI going to fundamentally change the way things happen, and how can we leverage that in the most appropriate way. And as such, as a product manager, my advice to you would be stay focused on AI capability and really understand how and where can you get AI to really achieve something. And then once you have unlocked that capability, apply it to individual use cases and know full well that those use cases will fundamentally change over time. And that time frame is condensing every day. The rate of change is absolutely unreal. So moving on, is v0.dev free to use? Absolutely it is. Go and have a look. There is paid tiers. There's also free tiers. So go have a look. It's pretty cool. How is product research likely to change if AI makes purchases in the future? Well, that's a great question. How can we gather insight about a subject through a third party? And I think that's the best way to reframe that question. How, as product managers, are we able to look at all of the noise of activity and then get to the signal and understand, okay, what was that person's buying intent? Why did that AI agent do the thing that it did? What was the term that the AI agent used to go and find this product? Or what was the methodology that the AI agent leveraged to achieve its outcome? All of those kind of key subtle indicators will help you understand the ultimate intent and where the value is for that underlying customer. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is going to be one of the biggest challenges we'll have, which is how do we gather insight? How do we understand what a customer wants in a world where the customer is always abstracted away, where their primary means of interacting with us is through some kind of agent. And as such, you're going to have to figure out where and how do you create and design and build value propositions, not only for that end customer, but for that AI agent, so that that AI agent can achieve its outcome in the most successful way possible. Do I recommend any books for AI product management? Not really. I think that this is such a new and unfolding space. The one thing that I would recommend for you is to start reading up on some of the fundamental technologies that are kind of forming up. An example of that is Model Context Protocol, MCP. You would have potentially seen this kind of floating around. Go and learn what MCP is and how this works at a fundamental level. And once you understand what that is and how that works, as a product manager, it should change the way that you look at how your products operate and what your products can do and what your products can offer as a service. Because if you can start understanding how this AI tooling and system works, you're going to be able to really drive all that value back into that customer and into that value proposition, so that when you are ultimately looking for where to go next, you're doing so from a place of knowledge and insight. So this is definitely one of those things. Have a conversation with an AI chat, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, you name it, and really start to unpack exactly what those kind of key fundamental technologies are. Because at the end of the day, everything is still a website. Everything's still kind of an API call away. AI agents are still operated on computers, and there's still a human at the other end of them. So making sure that you understand what are the mechanics and what are the mechanisms that are being leveraged means that when you're creating your products, you're going to do it in such a way that is really, really effective. And that's probably my best advice. I don't really know any specific books off the top of my head. I wish there were some that were really great, but that's where I would be focusing my time. So moving on to the next question, which was corporate data privacy issues regarding the usage of these AI tools by PM. This is a great question. And I think it really comes down to the fact that there's a lot of systems and tooling that you need to understand the truth around. For example, almost every single API provider of AI solutions or foundational AI models does not use your data for training. And as such, there's no material risk of a data breach. It is not too dissimilar to the fact that you might store really sensitive information on a Microsoft OneDrive. You are sharing all of that corporate information with Microsoft. So what's to stop them from using it in training? And ultimately, at the end of the day, this notion around privacy is kind of, I feel, a bit overblown. When you actually get down to the fundamentals around how this tech is working, there's very clear parameters under which you can operate without sacrificing or risking privacy. And it really boils down to the simple fact that you need to have your own tooling, or you need to use tooling that has guarantees around data processing. In Europe, with the GDPR, there's a really great framework already for the handling of data processing, and it's entirely transparent. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think privacy is as big an issue as people are making it out to be. It's a great way to create fear and sell product, but at the end of the day, I can build a private AI in less than 20 minutes, and there's nothing stopping a company to do that as well. The downside of some approaches that people are taking, which is like building their own internal tooling, building your own foundational models, is you're actually kind of pegging yourself at a point in time in AI development that is going to be made redundant within a few weeks or months or years. And as such, you're going to have to, as a corporation or as a business, as PMs, you're going to have to be able to understand at a fundamental level what are the tools and services you can use that do not have that privacy constraint, and then really make the case and educate. As PMs, you're going to have to upskill yourselves so that you can go and educate those people that don't have that knowledge internally. Because at the end of the day, a lot of businesses are starting to build their own in-house LLMs and using open source models to do this. And I don't necessarily think that's a smart long-term kind of a decision. You might get to a place where the model that was free and open source today is now completely blown away. And you can see like Llama 3 came out less than 18 months ago. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's kind of a redundant model. It's just really stupid compared to the current models around. So yeah, I think it's one of those things of like, the more information that you understand around the fundamentals of AI, and I hope I've kind of opened your eyes to a bit of a layer of how to start thinking about these things. It's your job now to go off and actually go and grab that knowledge and really make it true to yourself. So the next question is kind of based on the image of what a product manager does, seems to be very similar to a producer. So Andre, you're a games producer. And will there be less product managers, meaning more than one with more experience? And will that be a competitive advantage? Or do you see this as being a way for someone beginning versus more senior? So I think the question here is, what's the role of product manager going to change, and what's going to make a successful product manager in the future? And I genuinely think people that have come from other parts of the world, in terms of other industries, other kind of jobs, other world experience, are actually going to have a level like a one up on people who are career product managers. I have a mate. He's an incredible product manager. He works at one of the biggest companies here in Australia. And every time I talk to him, he is so kind of rigid in his thinking that every time I talk to him about some AI and the AI capability, it kind of blows his mind out of his skull in the terms of him not just really, he just cannot seem to kind of reframe a problem through a different lens. And for folks that are coming into product management with a wealth of other external experience, I think that this is going to be a real value add, because you're going to be able to bring that context, and you're going to be able to not have to unlearn a bunch of things that you didn't learn in the first place. So entering into product management in an AI first world right now is actually excellent. I think this is the best time to be getting into product management, because at the end of the day, there's going to be more software than we can handle, and there's going to be a bunch of people that need to be held accountable for what that software does. So as a product manager, if you make sure that you understand those fundamentals and that you can manage those orchestration platforms that are going to start forming up, then absolutely you're going to be well placed. But yeah, there is, just to come back to your question, Andre, there is definitely a lot of correlation between producer and product manager of the future. I think that those two roles are very similar in terms of the creativity of how do you link things and pull things together. So the next question is about cost arbitrage. Will these tools change the revenue model for companies in the future? And yes, absolutely. Now, this is something I talk about in our second masterclass, which is integrating AI into products. That one is only closed for learners of the Accelerator program, but we do kind of unpack this, because fundamentally business models are going to change. They are absolutely going to change. We're going to start to see a lot of like one-time payments for software. We're going to see a lot of bespoke and custom software. We're going to see a lot of value-based pricing instead of cost-based pricing. We're also going to see a lot of this kind of arbitrage where you just kind of take your cost and pass it on to the consumer with a margin. And ultimately, I think that business models globally are about to get kind of turned on their head. So as product managers, there's going to be a part of your role that's kind of like reframing how do you present the business model around your products. What used to be just a simple monthly subscription might now just be a one-time purchase. And how do you reframe that? More importantly, how do you convince an executive in a business or someone who has historically been very accustomed to like these very stable, consistent business models? How do you explain to them that the mechanics have changed and that a bad business pricing model might actually be the root cause of a problem? There are a bunch of AI tools that are exceptionally good, but they messed up their pricing. It made it seem like you paid a lot of money and you didn't get a lot of value because of their abstraction of how their credit system and all of their different calls worked. At the end of the day, it was no different than just a pass-through model. In fact, you actually got a little more value. But as a consumer, when you were seeing that pricing structure, it created a lot of confusion and fear. And as product managers, we're going to have to factor that in when we're messaging. How do we price it, and what does the business model look like? So yeah, this is a big area that I think PMs are going to be spending a bunch of time with. We'll move on to the next question, though, which is AI product managers. How do we make sure AI risk and governance is taken care of in AI applications? And this is a great question. There is no short answer to this question, though. This is one of the biggest problems in AI right now, which it fundamentally comes down to alignment. How do you ensure that AI are doing what you ask instead of running off and doing some crazy things? And there are some tangible, real-world examples of when this has gone wrong. For example, Canadian Airlines in the United States introduced a chatbot, and they gave it very clear instructions on what it could do when it was serving customers. So a customer messaged this chatbot and asked about the refund policy, and then made a booking, and ultimately wanted to cancel their flight and get a refund. The refund policy the AI chatbot came up with was not real. It was hallucinated. And as such, the customer took the airlines to court, sued them, and won $4 million as damages, all because that chatbot kind of invented this AI privacy policy. So there are real-world governance and risk challenges that come with implementing AI. And when we're talking about things moving too fast, I think it's because the rate of change of these models and the speed to try and get to AGI that all these foundational model providers and even the open source ones are focusing on, they are not focusing on alignment. I think Claude and OpenAI are the best for alignment. OpenAI is definitely focusing really hard in this space in terms of getting their models to do exactly what they're told. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this is one of those things as product managers, you're going to have to be thinking about how do you make sure that you're keeping that risk profile really small. I'm just going to go down to some folks that haven't asked questions really quickly. I'll circle back to you. I'll answer everyone's questions, but I'll circle back. Do you think regulations are slowing us down leveraging AI for societal good rather than just public commercial convenience? I'm thinking mission-driven healthcare use cases. Look, I have built an AI app that helps people who have lost the ability to speak talk again. There is nothing stopping me from providing that incredible benefit to people. My personal opinion here is I think we need way more regulation in the AI space. I think that what the EU is doing in AI regulation is the right track. I think it's the right approach. Ultimately, I don't think that we should be just running rampant without really heavy regulation with this technology. If you subtract away the obvious security risk around some guy in a backwater with an extremist ideology can kind of figure out how to synthesize a bioweapon from consumer grade products. Let's park that one for a second, and let's just talk about the fact that as a society, this technology is fundamentally attacking the core assumptions that build our society. It will fundamentally change our tax base. It will fundamentally change how work is done. I have a couple of thought experiments that I use when I hire people, and one of them I'll give to you now, which is when AI can do the jobs of most people, how do governments maintain a stable tax base? What are the methodologies and what is societal change that needs to be implemented in an AI first world? And that thought experiment is something I like to throw around at parties. I know, fun guy. But ultimately, it really kind of talks to this broader problem around the fact that when you are looking holistically at AI regulation, you need to take into account a lot of the other factors, such as the rate of change of societies. The legal system cannot change fast. It should not change fast. Governments should not change fast. There is a predictability in these fundamental institutions in our society, and we should be regulating AI to make sure that the rest of the world and the rest of society kind of keep up. But at this point, it's not happening. So strap in. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. What safeguards do we put in place to ensure AI doesn't collapse human society? Your guess is as good as mine in this question. I don't know. But what I do know is that we should every single person listening tonight should go and have a conversation about the world they want to live in an AI first world. When AI is everywhere and doing everything, what do we actually want to achieve? What do we actually want to have happen? And not just at a surface level. Oh, I want to go sit on a beach all day. That's cool and fun. Go deeper. actually start having these meaningful conversations around what does the world need to look like when AI is everywhere? What are the core fundamental principles that we want to adhere to? Because the current ones are kind of going out the window. These are the conversations that each and every one of us need to be having with not only ourselves, but with everyone that we can talk to. Because at the end of the day, almost all of us live in democracies, and we need to be informed about what we want so that we can make sure that we get it. Because ignorance is not an option here. So go out, actually understand how this technology, go and have those conversations. They're going to be hard conversations sometimes. Not everyone is going to have a job. What does that mean? How do we create a society where people that are unemployable, by virtue of the fact that AI can do their job, have something to do? So this is an important discussion point that we all need to be having, but probably not the right forum for this. Go and grab some mates, grab a few beers, sit at a pint and throw that one around, because that one I think needs to happen a lot more. I'll move on to the next question, which is there a market hiring product managers without having an engineering background in AI? Absolutely. I don't think an engineering background is actually helpful or useful at this point. As you saw, I typed in 15, 16 words and the AI did it for me. What is useful is a deep breadth and understanding around the fundamentals of this core technology, but moreover, the fundamentals of how the world works and how the world is going to work in a few years' time. So it's going to be really important that anyone that is kind of going out there and trying to become that core kind of product manager or trying to get hired in the product management space, talk about the fact that you have this interesting insight into where the world is going to be, not where it has been. You don't need to worry about the fact that you don't have experience in product management with all these products and all these challenges, because those challenges are now almost redundant, where the fundamental calculus has changed. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how do you view the world and how can you derive value for your end customer, and how do you construct and create that value proposition in a really interesting and unique way. We all end up at the same place, which is a product of some kind of variety. What differentiates those that are good from those that are excellent is opinions. People form opinions on how the world is going to be, and they create that world through the products they create. If you look at the Steve Jobs of the world, if you look at the incredible innovators, the Elon Musks, as politically charged as that is, the guy has invented some incredible capabilities. Rockets that can land, and cars that are electric, and tunnels that get built really quickly. We've got folks that are building incredible products. All of these people that are achieving these things are incredibly opinionated about the way the world worked. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to differentiate yourself as a product manager, form some opinions, loosely hold them, but form those opinions and be able to fight for them. Because at the end of the day, it will be one of those core things that you really, really, really want to be able to drive ultimately. And that will be your differentiator. Because at the end of the day, you will find that job that values that opinion because it resonates with the folks who are already there. And if you do find that job, you will love that job because your opinions are valued and they matter. And at the end of the day, those opinions are what will make you unique and special. So go out, form an opinion, hold it, allow people to challenge it and change it if necessary, but go and form an opinion. Apathy is not an option in this AI first world. So coming back to the last one, is there a market for hiring product managers? Sorry, we just answered that one. From a recruitment perspective, can an aspiring product manager effectively demonstrate enthusiasm for AI, especially if they're currently unemployed and don't have opportunities to work in AI in a professional setting? Not going to lie, the unemployed folk right now have an incredible one-up. You get a bunch of time to go out and create AI tooling and go and look at what you need. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you are afforded the time that most of us don't get, which is to go and deep dive in on these products. And I guarantee you, after a couple of months or a couple of weeks or a couple of days, depending on how hard you go, your opinions and perspectives on where AI is going and how that needs to be leveraged in a product context will make you highly employable. from a recruitment perspective. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things that foundational knowledge around product management, just the general mechanics of it, is really valuable. But more importantly, understanding the fundamentals around this core technology and the fundamental change that it will create is also as important. So I don't think that it's something that is a detractor right now. Excuse me, I genuinely think it's going to be something that is a real value add. So Andre, I think I've already answered that question around what makes a great one and what makes a bad one and what makes an exceptional one. And I'll just reiterate, it comes back to opinion. People that need opinions and ultimately when you have that core kind of thesis, at the end of the day, that is the core things that will differentiate you as a person. But I will end, assuming there's no other questions. Let me just have a look at the chat, see if there's anything else that's kind of made its way in there. No, it looks like there isn't. I'll end on your question, Luke, which is, what role do you think AI will play in augmenting human creativity? And I'm going to give you an example from last week. I had a friend of mine who we used to run around in London together in 2015. We talked about AI back then, and his partner is a digital artist, and ultimately, digital artists are screwed. AI is going to be able to do their job for them completely. But she took a really interesting approach. She went and created new pieces of digital art by stitching together AI-generated images as an individual pixel on a very large mosaic. So what the end result was these digital art pieces that were purely creative, that AI could not have done by itself. But now there's this new form of art. So I think what AI is going to do is unlock and move the bottleneck of human creativity. I, for one, have seen my creativity absolutely explode. The things that I can achieve with AI is unbelievable. And I'm just seeing a world of possibility. My core focus is in the accessibility space, and I'm putting together a team to help build for AI solutions and AI capability in the accessibility space, so that people who have a disability, whether it be physical or mental or psychological, they are absolutely able to leverage this technology to the maximum. And those kind of things that historically weren't possible now are. And I think in terms of creativity, where AI is, it's a force multiplier. It's definitely going to, as the German economist kind of once said, coined the term creative destruction, where in order to create the new industry or in order to create the new generation of innovation, you have to destroy a previous innovation or a previous industry. I think that this is very much the case when it comes to human creativity with AI. All the things that we used to find really creative and cool, and because they were really hard and nuanced, you had to specialize, they may actually start to become less so. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that it's up to each and every one of us to decide how we want to leverage that AI. So I'll leave you on that note with a quick reminder that 525,600 minutes is the number of minutes in each year, and you get to decide how you spend them. So when you're talking in an AI context, you get to make a choice whether or not AI is going to add time to your life and help you move the needle around where and what you do, or whether or not you let it become this thing that consumes more of your life. And on that note, I thank everyone for your attention. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I cannot guarantee I will respond to everything. My inbox is absolutely smashed, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help out. Thank you once again to Justin. I can see him doing a little bit of a humble brag around some of the cool stuff that he was rocking back in 2015, 16, back when we worked together in London. So you've got a great team here at Fourth Rev, and obviously the facilitators like myself and GT are always here to help kind of create some insights. So thank you very much, everyone. That concludes our session for today. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you at our next masterclass. Excuse me, our next masterclass, where we're going to be deep diving in how do you actually integrate AI into your products? How do you actually get this capability into your solutions, and how do you start framing those value propositions around that? So I look forward to seeing you all then. And until that point, have a great night. Thank you.